so broken as a nation. I mean, you look at the insults we hurl at each other on television. You look at the anger, and there isn't a sense of common purpose. There isn't this sense of where are we headed. And, at its best, America is a nation of ideals, of a nation that represents the best of human values. I wasn't a supporter of Ronald Reagan's ideology, but when he would talk about a shining city of the hill and what America could be, that it sent chills for America. And that's the sense, I think, that we have lost. And having spirituality deepen the conversation and also have some humility. Because if you believe in a higher power, then you probably think you don't have the monopoly on the truth.
Let me pursue that with you a little bit, because you mentioned Tocqueville in some of your writings and speaking, and he's kind of an intellectual hero of mine. I would take his main point to be a democracy can't really function, much less flourish, without some undergirding philosophical or religious point of view. So the institutions of a democratic society, both political and economic, are fine in themselves, but they won't really function properly unless the entire society is suffused with a religious sensibility, right? Here's something I've noticed in the years I've been following politics and reading. When I was a young guy, you'd read people on the left politically. They weren't anti-religious. And go back to like my father's heroes. My father's heroes would have been FDR and would have been JFK and Hubert Humphrey and LBJ, right? I can't think of any of those figures as being anti-religious or anti-spiritual. What I've noticed in the last, let's say, 30 years is the left is becoming increasingly hostile to religion. Not even indifferent to it, I mean actively hostile to it. And that worries a lot of us because of the Tocqueville principle. I get it. Religion, like anything else, needs to be criticized, and religious people do and say bad things. I get that. But you can't dismiss religion out of hand as something, primitive and irrational. Think of the new atheist critique from, 20 years ago. But I found it's come into the left as a kind of unsavory element. So talk to me about that, because you just mentioned the importance of the spiritual in a political conversation.
Well, I think it also is important to move people, right? I mean, it's not accidental that King's language is Christian in so many ways. I mean, he says we don't want a thing-oriented society, a people-oriented society. It's not accidental that Gandhi appeals not just to the Bible, but to the Gita and to Hindu faith and to Islamic faith, and because people ultimately aren't just material things. We have higher aspirations, and to touch that, whether it's a sense of patriotism or even higher, a sense of what your obligations are to something beyond just your human existence, is deeply what moves people. So to say that, okay, we're not going to have that conversation impoverishes our ability to have a politics. Now, it comes from this fear that we want to have pluralism in this country, and so I think that the fear was, okay, are we just going to have one faith? But I think America has always, in my view, been a nation of many faiths, and you can celebrate that, and we can create space for that. So I'll give you a very childhood story. When we were moving into to Amsterdam Avenue in Holland, which was one of the neighborhoods. I was born in Philadelphia. We were moving there. There was a bit of chatter in the street in Bucks County. The Kanas are moving in, and we figured out, what was going on, and that someone said, well, on Christmas Eve, we put candles out, and now are we going to have a house that doesn't have the candle lights out? So my parents kind of laughed, and they said, of course we're going to put the candle lights out. We grew up celebrating Christmas. It doesn't diminish our own faith tradition. And we did that, and we celebrated, and people on the street celebrated Diwali and were curious. And I think that there has, in my view, having a robust engagement with people's faith is a better way than telling people don't have faith in the public square.
Right. And is it possible to have a religious argument in public. And I use that word argument on purpose because I've been saying for years, it looks for a lot of people like there are two options. Either there's just interreligious violence or there's total privatization. Just don't talk about religion. And I would say, no, there's a middle ground, which is robust religious argument that can come out into the public space, not violent, but intellectually engaged.